right, good evening. It is my watch till 6 p.m., so I'm going with that. On Thursday, October 20th, and I would like to call this regular meeting of the Board of Education to order and ask that we all please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. And will the clerk please call the roll?
Dr. Boddy? Dr. Kavanaugh?
Present.
Ms. Hodgen? Present. Mrs. Lawrence? Mrs. Lilgy? Present. Mr. Lopez? Mrs. Moore? Dr. Rodriguez? Present. Mrs. Willis?
Present.
Quorum is present.
Thank you. There is the MASB conference this week, which is where a contingency of our board is enjoying Traverse City and all the colors, I am sure. I am going to, if there's no objection, add a committee report under routine business number 3. I want to provide an equity committee report. That is my fault for not making sure it got on the agenda ahead of time. Oh, also I'm acting president, so sorry guys. Gotta listen to me tonight. Let's see, next on the agenda is public comment on agenda items for which we have none, which moves us right into our presentations. I'm gonna turn it over to the superintendent.
Well, thank you so much. It's so wonderful to see you all. If you see on the agenda, there are 2 large presentations that we're looking forward to. So the first is I would like to invite up to the dais Jessica, Kurt, Yvonne, and Heather, all lovely and wonderful people that will introduce themselves and tell you more about what they're going to do. But again, this is the 98C learning loss and the 35A additional instructional time grant spending plan, which I know sounds like gobbledygook coming from me, but will make a lot of sense from these wonderful learned folks in front of you. So take it away, Deputy Superintendent Benavides.
Can you hear me okay? No. Oh, it is on. Okay. Maybe. All right. Well, good evening, everyone. We are here tonight to talk to you about a spending plan for 2 grants. And without stealing Kurt's thunder, because he's going to be first up tonight, I would like to introduce you to the wonderful people sitting here at the table. So we have Kurt Barnum. He is our Director of State and Federal Grants. We have Heather Guerra, who is our Assistant Director for Instruction, Pre-K-3. And we have Yvonne Thomas, who is our Director of Instruction. So it was very important for me tonight to bring these wonderful people here. Kurt, you probably know because we've done some grants presentations in the past, but you've heard a lot about Heather and Yvonne, and I wanted to make sure that you heard their voices. So without further ado, I'm going to pass this on to Kurt.
Thank you. Tonight, we're going to talk about 2 grant applications that the state or the district is seeking through the state funds. The first one we're going to talk about is our Section 35A, which is an additional instructional time grant. You may have already heard of it as the Pre-K-3 reading grant or early literacy grant. It's part of the Read by Grade 3 law, so making sure students are reading by grade level. And the second grant we're going to look at tonight is our Section 98C, which is a new grant that the state just came out with leftover funds from ESSER and GEAR to focus on learning loss. The first one we're going to focus on is Section 35A. Typically, on an annual basis, we average around $180,000 from this grant. And here to share more details on this grant is Heather Guerra, our Assistant Director of Instruction, Pre-K-3.
Hi, thank you for the opportunity. So with the 35A grant, we are really focused on, and it's stated right there in the slide, research-based effective literacy instruction for our early students in the pre-K through 3rd grades. We're focusing on resources with them, professional learning for our staff, just to ensure that what we are providing for our students is really a robust tier 1 instruction model for them. And so we're focusing on looking at improving outcomes through a structured literacy model. So very explicit instruction, intentional instruction on the foundational skills, as well as connecting then those foundational skills to connected text and content area learning. So we're going to be looking at structured literacy, essential literacy block components, and professional learning for our staff. So with structured literacy, we're really looking at that explicit and systematic instruction of the foundational skills, looking at decoding, spelling, in addition to other components of reading, fluency, comprehension, oral language and vocabulary development. And then in doing that, we're really looking at how do we implement that into our daily instructional block in the classrooms. So working with our teachers to ensure that we have the resources available for teaching those essential components. So we're looking to purchase a program called Haggerty, which focuses on phonemic awareness for our kindergarten, first and second grade students, using we call it UFLI, but it's the University of Florida Literacy Institute. Oh gosh, now I'm losing my train of thought here, but it's a systematic approach to teaching phonics. It is strategic. It goes, it's cyclical, and it goes K through 2 for our students. And then really providing opportunities for them to use those skills in connected text daily. So looking at decodable text. So they're practicing those skills that they're learning and with the phonemic awareness and the phonics in actual text so that we can make those connections later in our literacy block when we're looking at our content area skills and strategies for reading. We also are looking at road to reading and road to the code and bridging the gap. So looking at interventions for those students who are not meeting the Tier 1 expectations. What are we using to ensure that our students are getting what they need? And then for our professional learning, a lot of our teachers have, and you may have heard of this, but the LETTERS training, Language Essentials for Teachers of Reading and Spelling. It is written by one of the gurus in early literacy, Louisa Moats, and it really focuses on what does that look like in the classroom and what does early reading look like for elementary students? What are all the components that we need to have daily in those? So many of our teachers have participated in that training that's being offered through the state, and it is a very comprehensive training. It's about 180 hours of additional time outside of just their classroom instruction. So we are providing some additional pay for the work of our teachers in doing that because it is valuable for our students in the classroom. And then looking at multi-tiered systems of supports and how are we really using a systematic approach to screen our students and inform our core instruction and our interventions and monitor their progress throughout the instructional sequence.
Thank you. The second grant that we're going to look at, the opportunity is for Section 98C. Again, these are leftover funds from GEAR and ESSER that the governor has associated with learning loss funding. The statute requires that we present at a public meeting before the end of October to share our thoughts and plans on how we're going to spend these funds if we're awarded them. Based on our estimations with per pupil counts in the state and other districts, depending on who applies, we're looking at anywhere between 500,000 to 1.5 million. So somewhere in that range is the amount of funding we'll receive. And here to explain how we're going to spend those funds is Yvonne Thomas, our Director of Instruction.
Good evening, and I get to talk about our ideas and thoughts about using these funds. So one of the things is Newsella and Map Accelerator. Both of these programs are digital and will help support the work of our assessments. So our students take NWEA, and so Newsella and Map Accelerator are components of both of those. We're very excited about the Imbasol credit recovery weekends, and this is targeted for our students who are needing to take Algebra 1. So very excited about providing them a different opportunity to receive that half a credit. Looking at some tutoring opportunities that will be virtual and school-based, and differentiated materials that will be inclusive of all of our students, ELL, and our students who receive special education services. We're also looking at professional learning opportunities for our teachers, and that is looking at, as Heather spoke about, multi-tier support systems and professional learning about the framework for great schools and our school improvement. PLC additional hours is for student or for our teachers to be able to provide some learning after school and have small groups in that intentional learning that is needed to continue to move our students. After school learning extensions, we're looking at some robotics and chess clubs and additional clubs to offer for our students and culturally relevant reading materials. So, and this was based off of the audit that was done last year. So we're very excited about looking at those funds and offering support to our teachers and for our students.
So one of the components for our application is we have to have metrics to measure how we will know that success is happening with this funding. The metrics that we have chosen to, that we feel are the best match are NWEA with the board, which the board has looked at those scores from last year when we did our 98B presentation. And we are looking to increase student growth from last year in both NWEA and Ames Web Plus. If you remember, Ames Web Plus is for kindergarten and first grade, and then second through 12th is for NWEA. And then also we will be looking at how many students were able to earn the extra algebra credits through our Ebersol Credit Recovery Weekend. So those are the metrics that will be associated with this grant application. Just to flesh that out just a little bit for all of you, because you saw ranges that are happening. The applications are open. We have given our intent to apply. And then we have this community board meeting to share our spending plan with all of you. Once this meeting is concluded, then we will be putting together a budget. It is a proposed budget. So we have kind of put all the soup to nuts in the application that we will have in the hopes that we will be awarded more on the high end, but it really does depend on how many school districts also apply for these funds. If every school district in the state of Michigan applies, then our award will probably be $500,000. If less apply, it could be all the way to 1.5, and those are all just estimates based on ESSER funds that we have gotten in the past. So we want to thank you for your time to share our instructional plan for learning loss and early literacy. I'd like to definitely highlight the work that Yvonne and Heather have done, because it's been extraordinary. Heather's knowledge around early literacy and also Yvonne's are really what's going to move forward our district in the area of getting our children to really read and be proficient readers by third grade, and then also addressing learning loss, which I don't really like that word, right? Because it's really acceleration for all of our students and opportunities for additional learning. So thank you, and we'll turn it over for any questions or comments you may have.
Thank you. Dr. Rodriguez?
Thank you. Thank you very much for the presentation. You were talking about 180 hours of training for the teachers, or how many hours?
It's between 160 and 180 hours, and it's all it's online. So there's 8 units. There are, gosh, what is it called? So you have your first 4 units, your next 4 units. I'm doing it as well, along with the staff, just because it's such great learning. So I've completed the first 4 units, and you do online modules, and each unit is about 30 hours of online modules of watching videos, doing activities, all interactive, and then you have additional outside readings as well. So it's just so eye-opening to learn about how the brain learns to read and how you have all of these connections between, early literacy and language learning that then goes, we call it speech to print, right? We start first learning about communication through talking, and then that leads to learning about sounds and syllables, and that makes words and sentences and paragraphs, and now we're reading, and then the writing piece. So you've got your encoding and decoding kind of thing.
Then every teacher has to take 180 hours.
They don't have to. It's a choice. They could.
Okay.
And so
then we pay them for these 180 hours?
We are paying them additional hours pay, yes, as a workshop in order. It's a great program for them, great learning. It's all things that as we research, we know more about teaching reading. And so
The second question is, you ending, my question was about evaluation system. If we are going to have for both programs, what kind of evaluations? And you indicate the sun and the end. When the board is going to know if our students gain because that program, when we are going to know the gain of the students' growth or achievement?
So we do.
Because you have here 21, 22, and we are now in 22, 23, then can you carry us to see where was a pre-testing, a post-testing, and how we are going to know that our students are improving in both programs?
So we're going to use the 21-22 as our baseline. So as they had taken the test in the spring, that will let us know kind of the baseline of where our students were last spring. And that was the presentation that we gave to the board, Ben and I, for 98B. And then we use NWA and Ames Web in the fall. So we've actually already tested our students. So we're using that as information of how we move forward. Heather talked a little bit about the diagnostics that we take. So we use Ames Web, and then we dig a little deeper to find out where are the needs of our students. And then we put interventions in Tier 1 instruction in place. Then we do a winter benchmark assessment of both of these, and then a spring. So as soon as the winter benchmark, we could see some growth, but then ultimately we really look from fall to spring for our measure of growth with these particular initiatives that we're putting in place.
This program goes for K to 3 only, or K to 12, or K to where?
So the early literacy money is the 35A that Heather spoke of. That's K-3 specific. They're early literacy funds. The learning loss funds, though, will span the entire district, pre-K to 12.
It's a great thing, but it's a lot of work that we had to find out
Yes.
for the knowing how the students are. And as soon we can find out some, that will be the best thing for us too. Then thank you very much, and good.
Thank you, Dr. Rodriguez. Dr. Kavanaugh?
Hi, thanks. Great presentation. I know how hard it is to budget for a grant when you're not sure what the final dollar amount will be, but could you give us some kind of indication of what would be cut if the funding is on the lower end and what would be added if the funding is on the higher end?
Sure. So we're pretty sure that the $180,000 is solid. That's typically what we get, and we can kind of figure that out with our per pupil. So that one we're pretty set on. We also had some carryover funds from that grant from last year that we were able to use. So we don't think anything will have to be cut from that grant. The learning loss one is really where that's a big span. We go from 500,000 all the way to 1.5 million. So some of the things that we would offer for sure are Nuzella and MAP Accelerator, because we know that those are tried and true programs that tie in with NWEA, and our schools are really ready to implement those. So that is a definite. We really would like to take a look at if there's a way to not eliminate but reduce the number. For example, if we had to do extracurricular activities at our high schools, for example, which we know really engage students and extend the learning day, then maybe instead of offering 5 clubs at each school, we would offer 2. So we would like to see that we can spread the impact by not having to cut things, but maybe reduce how much of something that we would purchase.
Thank you. Ms. Logie?
My first question was, what is decodable? But Heather, you explained that. Is there anything else you want to say about it to help us understand?
You know, I think it just kind of goes back to what Jessica said, the tried and true. So everything here is research based, and we're not picking anything that's like new and hey, I just tried this. This is tried and true. People have done this for many years and watched the growth of their students. And so a few of the resources have weekly monitoring of the progress for the students as well. So you know exactly what your students need day to day. So your instruction is really focused on their specific needs. And that's really what we're looking at when we're looking at early literacy. We can't do a whole group lesson for 28 kids and expect that they're all going to walk out of that room gaining the same knowledge. We know that they're coming with all different skill sets and different knowledge bases. So that's the most important thing with early literacy, is knowing what each student needs.
Thank you. It's really exciting. My last question is pretty simple. The teachers, this 180 hours of training that they can opt into and get paid for, that goes towards their PD, their professional development requirements too, right? They would have to do some type of professional development, might as well be this.
Yeah, it's not district provided DPPD, but it is through their own, so they can log it into their own MOEX system for professional development.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
Thank you.
And many of them, kudos to them, chose to be a part of this program well before we knew that we had funds to thank them for that participation. So we have, I think, 19 currently that have showed me the paperwork of they've completed different things that started this process back in February when it was started with the state. So that just speaks volumes to their dedication to our students as well.
Not going to be a minimum mandatory training, or I don't like the word training, the professional development for all teachers is not going to be something for all of them.
Right now, it's an option. But if the state is the one who's recommending.
So just to clarify that a little bit, so just because there's many professional opportunities for learning. So if a teacher opts into the letters training, which we know is kind of a national model for reading and early literacy, then that's wonderful. But that's a large commitment of 180 hours. There are other things in the 35A and in the learning loss that we can do in smaller chunks for teachers who may not have the 180 hours to commit to that time. So we're not leaving anyone out. It's just they may not get the full letters training, but there will be early literacy training. And Heather's already working with the literacy teachers at each of the schools to develop those skills with their staff.
So to clarify, will there at least be a minimum required something for all of our teachers related to the benefit of 35A?
Absolutely.
Okay, that's good. Any other questions, board members? I have a couple questions myself. I really appreciate the presentation because it's good to see these tools that we're going to have ready to implement. So just to clarify, 35A is the $180,000 that we're fairly sure we're going to get, and we're implementing this, I'm saying this school year is the plan. And I see, and you guys presented that this is focused on tier 1 instruction, right? So it's really good that we're going to have a beefed up standard of what everybody's learning in the classroom. Is there anything in 35A on differentiated instruction, or are we really focusing on the 98C to provide that support?
So 35A is doing both.
Okay.
So what we really are looking at with increasing that robust nature of our tier 1 is differentiation happens in tier 1 for
Okay.
all students, first and foremost. We shouldn't be talking about tier 2 and tier 3 where we're bringing in additional resources and support unless we have exhausted all of our differentiation options in tier 1.
Perfect.
So that's part of that effective literacy instruction.
Okay, thank you. Oh, and do we have an ETA on when we may hear about 98C?
So 98C, the application is open. They're due by the end of November.
Okay.
So probably around December, we should know some more.
Or never crystal ball it? Okay, got it. Okay, no, I mean, that's nothing you control about when the state's going to issue that. So perfect. All right, thank you. Any other questions? All right, thank you for the presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Mr. Superintendent, I'm going to turn it back over to you to introduce our next guest.
Why, thank you so much. Today, we'd like to introduce the Site Logic project. You will see some folks that are going to tell you about what I like to think is a pretty interesting and thoughtful way that we can be let's just say, get some better facilities and save money all at the same time. So I will turn it over to SiteLogic to tell us about all these things they're doing, and then also to thank Kurt, who is, I mean, our rep, which we appreciate, you representing us in this case. But I'll probably have some things to say about this when they're done. But just know, for all of you listening at home and everybody at the board, is that this district, as we know well, has some older building stock and some older electric stock and some older heating stock, and that there are ways now to upgrade a lot of the things that we're doing in this district on a very good and thoughtful way. And so I'm going to turn it over to SiteLogic to talk about this, and then I'll probably have some other things to add. So take it away.
Thank you, and good evening. My name's Greg Arkwright. I'm the VP of Engineering, and I have Chris Graycheck with me tonight, and Kurt is the owner's rep. So we've been selected by the district to evaluate, design, and implement an energy project. And that's what we've been doing, really starting back, I think the engagement started in May. So tonight we're going to talk about the timeline, what we've done, some of the scope, and then funding scenarios for the final project that we've selected. So March and April, we began our master planning process that was focused on energy evaluation. We kicked it off. We did a lot of time in the building, logging energy use, evaluating the systems, spending a lot of time down in those deep, dark places below the building that I'm sure all of you would like to come visit. But don't worry, I brought pictures, so you'll be okay. And we really evaluated all those systems, a lot of the heating, cooling, lighting, and you'll see a lot of that in this presentation tonight. So back in May, we reviewed all the assets that we took a look at. And then September, we came back with pricing and savings on all the projects that we found. We workshopped those through the beginning of September and into the end. And then on October 10th, we presented a potential project to the facility committee. And here tonight, we're here to present and get approval on that project. The first thing we do as we're evaluating these systems is we look at everything from not only the age of the asset and evaluate the life cycle of it against a standard that's an industry standard, but we also give our evaluation of the condition of that, because even if something's new, it may be in poor condition, or even older systems may be in great condition. So we do this on every asset, from danger to excellent. We rate every asset that we look at. And you'll see here as we roll up, this is a combination of every energy asset that we looked at. It includes the lighting, the heating, cooling systems. And we roll all those up, all of those evaluations, so you can get a picture on a broad lens of the 5 buildings that we were selected to look at, what you're up against in your building. Again, this isn't everything. This is just the energy assets we were tasked to look at. So there may be other things out there, but you can see a lot of red. So there's a lot of items, or yellow, that are caution. There's a lot of work to be done, and you'll see what we can do through this energy project. You'll notice some numbers there. Some are true energy projects, some are capital projects. We just bring those to the attention. If we're touching something energy, we want you to know the long-term effect of that as well. So what I'd like to show you is the potential impact of the energy project on these facilities. So if you take Sexton High School, for example, you get the first condition in the pie chart there on the left, and then the post condition after the energy project. This is what we're proposing it would look like. So we're taking a snap out of that alarm condition and knocking a piece of that out through upgrading lights, heating systems in the building, and renewing some of those assets while saving energy. And then again at Everett as well, Everett High School, making a little bit more dent in the caution. And then Lyons Elementary as well. Part of this is related to a bond project that we're looking at doing concurrently with the energy project. So you'll see a bit more of an impact there, and that part of that is due to the improvements through the bond. Now, the big one that we want to talk about as well tonight is Gardner, which has a lot of needs, not only a lot of needs like all of your buildings, but the magnitude is pretty significant when you look at the numbers overall capital-wise. And what we wanted to show is, since that's a major piece of this project, where you're going to go from the current condition to after the energy project. And just to let you know that we were not able to tackle all of that. There's a potential maybe down the road you might have to revisit that with maybe a future bond project or other sort of project. So we wanted to show you kind of a pathway of how to get there and attack that building that needs a lot of upgrades. And we'll talk more about those. I have some pictures to share on that specific building. So with the selected project, this is what we call an energy cost index. It's really your energy use divided by your square footage. So the dollar per square foot on the left is what you're currently using in the black line. And what we propose to happen after the energy conservation is the gray bar. So that's your reduction in energy usage. And then the orange line would be kind of your average building that we're comparing against. And so you'll see with the projects we've selected a pretty big impact at Gardner and Everett High School through this project. You'll notice we did look at the Welcome Center. That was, we evaluated it, but it was chosen not to proceed. We're focusing on these 4 buildings at this time.
And sorry to interrupt.
Yes.
Just for clarity, the reason, of course, is we wanted to highlight and focus on schools with students in them. And so we love the Welcome Center very much, but there are not students K-12. We do appreciate all the great work that is being done there with adult ed, but we wanted to focus on the K-12 at this juncture, just to give clarity onto why we chose to move away from the Welcome Center.
Yep. And so in summary, what we have brought forward tonight is about a $12 million project. And the breakdown, as you can see in the table there, a lot of it focused on Gardner that had a lot of the capital needs in it. A significant portion there, and then at Everett and Sexton, and a smaller portion at Lyons, and mostly due to a lot of upgrades through the bond project already going on in concert with what we're looking at. I'm not going to read through all the scope. A lot of it is similar through all the buildings. There will be lighting upgrades in all of the buildings that we've selected projects on. There is going to be energy optimization. So those are things that control your heating and cooling, optimizing when they start and stop, so that they set back at night, they warm up on time in the morning, and that when you walk out of the room, they'll shut down on their own through automation. So a lot of that technology can be implemented on existing systems. We'll look at dimming in classrooms for lighting. We'll look at some water conservation measures to reduce water conservation, and then power factor correction helps on your utility bills as well. Also, at some of the schools, we'll be doing some building envelope improvements to seal up leakage so you don't get that airflow leaking out through window cracks, roof wall intersections, under door sweeps. So just tightening up that building so that you don't get a lot of infiltration in. Gardner has a lot of scope. I'm going to touch on it with some pictures to make it more clear. So we'll come back to that. And again, this is Lyons, very similar scope of work as all the other buildings we proposed. Now, specifically with lighting, I just wanted to give you a few pictures where we can retrofit light fixtures. We're doing that to be cost effective, and there is a lot of that in the district, as you'll see. But there are a lot of fixtures that are really beyond their useful life and can't be retrofitted. And here's a few examples of those where they really are in need of replacement. And so we do have a lot of true replacement in light fixtures as well. And that will help not only bring the light levels up, but bring renewal to the building. And you'll see in this map, colored map, the point here is the green is all new fixtures. Anything that is a different color is a different type of retrofit. So where we can do that cost effectively, we're going to get more of a payback on the project. And the green would be areas where we have to replace. And this is just an example of Sexton High School. Now, turning over to Gardner, we uncovered a lot there, and it's really kind of the Pandora's box. As you walk through the building, we discovered that looking at the ceiling right off the bat, you have an old integrated ceiling system where you have lighting integrated to the ceiling and HVAC that distributes air through it, and all of that comes as a package deal. Where nowadays you can swap out a ceiling tile, you can swap out a light. This all came together as one thing. So once you touch it, you're in, all the way back. And it posed a lot of problems to try and get improvements there without spending capital money. And that's where we focused a lot of the time to find out how can we make improvements and upgrade the facility at the same time. So this was probably the biggest challenge, looking at the lighting and the ceiling system. And here's a few other pictures. We made sure we found the worst ones. So as you can see there. So definitely need of replacement. The area that this covers, anywhere shaded in gray there, is the integrated ceiling replacement that we're proposing. That's the first floor, and this would be the second floor. So really about half of the building has this system. In this project, as I told you, we could not fund everything through the energy project at this point in time. So there will be some areas in yellow that would have to be revisited at a future date as part of another project. And these would be those areas. What we did focus on is the core classroom areas. That was kind of the guideline all the way, as you noted with the Welcome Center. Even in this building, focus on the classrooms first. And so you'll see, again, the green, all new light fixtures. Any other color would be a retrofit. We are still doing some retrofit in that building where we can cost effectively use what you have and upgrade, get efficiency. But a lot of new light fixtures going in areas of the building. So lots of old equipment from 1969. This is your heating and cooling systems. They have not been touched since the building has been built. And if I draw your attention down to the one in the bottom left, you'll see not only are they old, but they're in a very tight room. And that poses a lot of other conditions that are hard to overcome, getting something new that is usually bigger back in a small area. So a lot of challenges with this building, but we did find solutions and we've got it covered. And these things will be addressed in the areas that we highlighted. You use hot water heat to heat your building, and you have two boilers, one from 1969, original to the building, and one in 2012. So that boiler up there on the left is one that we would be looking at taking out and replacing. And so that produces the hot water to heat your building. There's a lot better technology, higher efficiency technology, and there are much smaller systems that can be put in, and that's what we're looking at doing. The smaller systems can run about 80% of the time throughout the year, and you won't have to run that other boiler hardly ever except in the mornings. So a lot of new technology utilized in this project. So I want to cover the potential funding solution that we've selected for this. We're looking at an energy bond, and so we have a cash flow here that shows how the project would look. If you look at the top, we've got a net capital investment of $12 million. You do get utility rebates from the local utility consumers and Lansing Board of Water and Light to the tune of $121,000. We would guarantee those utility rebates, that you would get those, and worked with utility to ensure that you get the check paid for that. So that comes off the cost of the project. We have the owner's rep fees that to oversee the project, and then you have bond issuance and legal fees that are added in to a total of $12,336,000. If you look at the first column, that's your project year. We're anticipating 3 years of construction. That also includes our design period. So we'll be in construction and design for 3 years. Gardner will come in the last year because it's so significant amount of work and we need to procure equipment. So 3-year period for design and construction. And then what we want to do is kind of show you how that relates all the savings and cash flow. So the first column is your project year. We show out to 20 years. And then the next column is your annual utility savings, which we would guarantee every year. And then operational savings are your savings for not having to replace light bulbs. LED lights last a lot longer. You're not going to have to replace bulbs. You'll have operational savings. So those will be seen as well as part of your funding mechanism. Capital contribution. There is some capital contribution required for this project because of the nature of Gardner. And that's part of the reason that we brought the big capital projects to the attention, is it is going to need some funding support. And that's where this comes in. The expenses would be your third-party financing, looking at 15-year financing, and the technical resource services there for 3 years. That's our service fee to gather utility bills, evaluate the energy use, and report that back to you. We process that. We're showing for 3 years. Guarantee goes on as long as you pay that bill. You can cancel at any time. And that's our fee to process the guarantee. And then you'll see your annual cash flow and your cumulative cash flow out to 15 years. With the capital contribution, you're a net positive. And then carried out to 20 years, you can see the net effect overall as well. This is based on a 4.5% interest rate And I believe it was a 3.25% escalation on utility bills year over year. So you'll see that savings creep up. We make an assumption on that. We'll see where utilities go, probably more than that, but that's probably conservative 3.25%. So a lot of information. I'll stop there and see if we have any questions.
Okay, I'm gonna go first because I can't focus. I was following you till I saw the green at Gardner, and it just made my head explode. This is like the day we found out about the coal chutes at the old Easter. Like I just can't deal with this. So I have a couple questions. Well, since we're on this page about the funding plan, would there be a potential for us to reduce the amount of third-party financing expenditures if we use some of our fund balance to offset?
Yeah, so the thing, and we talked about this in the facilities committee, is the decision to finance this over time is because we'd rather hold our cash now. The financing isn't that expensive. My fear is that if we spend a lot of money now, we won't have it to play around with later. And that, as you can see, it actually will start paying for itself. So the idea of going out to 15-year financing will be better for the district in the long run. We could certainly use money to offset it, but by borrowing it, we're able to kind of hold our cash now so that we can fix a lot of some of the other things that you see at Sexton and Gardner that we can get going. So, I'm certainly happy to talk about it, but the coming out of the facilities committee was a decision to finance it so that we can kind of keep the cash in our hands just in case, but that because this actually will create money in the long run, it helps us out.
Okay. Can I clarify? So the Gardner at a glance page is assuming that there's additional bond that we would procure?
Yeah, it's an illustration to say if you were able to find a way to finance either through sinking fund or bond and attack those projects, you could make a bigger impact down the road. What we're trying to do is make an effort to tackle some of that without going out to the public for funding. And that's, to try and show you, we can get you a good portion of the way there, but you still got some left that you're going to have to get done somehow.
So the money we would pay at Gardner gets us here, this middle
Yes,
one.
that middle one. Yep.
Can I ask a question? This is not for you guys. Thank you for the presentation, by the way. You guys, thank you. Thank you. Why and how did we not catch some of these, at least the lighting upgrades with the bond project?
So, great question. When we went to the community to talk about what was needed for the bond, the idea was to create 4 new schools and air conditioning and all.
I'm sorry, not this bond, 2016.
Oh.
That we touched all the schools with upgrades. Sorry, you're right. We're good. Yeah, you're right. We're good. We're good with the current bond. I'm talking about the 2016 bond where we did upgrades at all of our schools.
So, hi.
Hi.
With the 2016 bond, when we touched all schools, it was that money was focused on, and again, wasn't up here for that
Sure.
decision, but furniture and technology were the choices that were made to spend money on for all schools at that time.
But not like at Everett. At Everett got new, they
Right.
did an energy study at Everett. That's how they got all new windows. So how did we not do the lighting?
It's a very good question.
Okay, all right. It's okay. All right, thank you. Any other questions from the board?
But, sorry, if you don't mind, Doc. But what I will say, what we can think of in a positive way is that the state of Michigan allows us to create these energy bonds
Sure.
where we're able to do this without going to the public, where we're able to support it. And I very much appreciate what President current Vice President Willis is talking about. Is I think we're really focusing on moving forward and making really great decisions now. And I'm really thankful for the people around us. And, we will continue to make good decisions.
Yeah, sure. Appreciate it. Thank you. And I didn't mean to put anyone in an awkward position. I'm just trying to reconcile the magnitude of this issue. Dr. Body?
Good evening. Thank you. I apologize if this is a low-level question. Does the $12 million estimate include like a buffer for inflation and like the rising costs of everything, including supplies?
I'd be happy to address that. I brought up the same question about a week ago, and this was put together, and the numbers in front of you reflect if the project was designed immediately and installed, next year. As Greg mentioned, that Gardner would be out another year. So we looked at what would the inflation be on just Gardner. We still have some strategies to implement to hopefully not need that. But if the amount that we would want to budget to handle that for Gardner would be, in fact, I saved it here on my phone. It was about $465,000 to handle that increase, and it was just for Gardner. Well, very, very good question.
Thank you. Dr. Rodriguez?
Thank you very much. Gardner was built in 1968, and I'm surprised, but it was 2 schools and 1 or something like that. Why we don't start with Gardner more than to wait 3 years? We don't start with Gardner right away because it's the one we will save more money.
Yeah, so good question. I said we're going to wait on Gardner, but there will be some lighting retrofits that we'll always try and push out first. And we will be doing some of that work right away as fast as we can. The capital improvement projects are going to take time to design, and that'll take probably up to 4 months. And then you need to procure equipment. If you have not ordered equipment by a month ago, you're not going to get it in time for next summer. So that ship has kind of sailed already. So we need to design, put it out to bid, get that equipment ordered so that in summer of 24, it'll be here in time to install. And that's the biggest obstacle, is that design cycle and procurement time. We always drive as fast as we can to get the energy savings to bring back to you. So anything that we will install as soon as we can.
And when are you going to do the work? During the school year or during the summers?
We will do most of it during the summer, but we regularly do operate during the school year. A lot of lighting retrofits, true retrofits, not replacement, can be done in second shift. So we'll work with the district to find a schedule where we can maybe do some of those retrofits if we're into the school year, as long as it's cleaned up in the morning, no exception. It should look no different in the morning. And we do this all the time. We're in schools everywhere. It's a must. We go in at night, you don't know we're there, and next thing you know, you have new lights in. So there will be some things like that we can do throughout the school year so we can accelerate getting the work done. But a significant portion will be summer work.
That is an internal question. In the last few months, we have few boilers that have creating problems for us in different buildings. Who is taking care of the boilers at this time? And who will take care with these 3 schools or 4 schools in the future? That the school is responsible or somebody else? Or how is that going to be responsible in the future to take care of our schools, buildings?
We have a contract with Sodexo to do custodial and maintenance services. Certainly, we are always making sure that things are working well. One of the things that I'm really thankful about this project is that we can start to have conversations about new boilers and paying for that. But this district has a relationship with Sodexo that's job is to take care of our maintenance and facilities. We can have a conversation about other decisions, but until this time, that's where it is.
Yes, I think the board has to have in consideration what we are going to take care of the schools. And have day-by-day operations that we don't distract the students or the parents every 2 weeks. And I think that it's our responsibility as a board members, as a board, that doesn't happen. Is a motion tonight for that?
So we have in our packets this evening the design bid, build, and energy savings agreement amendment number 3. So as was presented, they've been working on this project since the spring, and the amendment on pages 11 and 12 have further breakdowns of the pricing fee structure agreement. I do see in here there's some overhead escalation proposed driver in there. And so the total amount in the proposal is a little bit higher than what was in the presentation, but I'm assuming that's because this gets a little bit more detailed and those are rough number estimates in the
Yeah.
PowerPoint.
And what we're asking for approval to clarify is the design and mobilization design fees to go out and get bids for the project. And then we would come back with final bid amounts to update your amount for the total. So we're asking for approval. I think it's 2 million amendment to cover the design and bidding and fees to proceed to get the bids to bring back.
This is an additional 2 million from what's already been paid.
Yeah, and that was for the initial phase. We did a fast track project at Sexton, which is we're in construction on right now, and that's ongoing. So we're in construction on that. This is for the balance of the 4 buildings for.
Perfect. We can move this tonight. Is that what you're recommending, Mr. Superintendent?
It is in fact on the agenda for number 9.
I will accept a motion now so we can
Oh.
not keep our partners waiting. Ms. Lilji.
I move that the Board of Education approve the Energy Site Logic Project Amendment as presented.
It's been moved by Ms. Lilji, supported by Ms. Hodgen. Are there any other questions? If none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, same side. Great. Motion carries 7-0. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And thank you to all the staff as well that has helped us. Everybody here has been very helpful. So.
Sorry, there's 6 of us here today. Sorry, can't count. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on to the agenda, we are on to our superintendent's report. Mr. Schuldiner.
Well, thank you so much. What I wanted to talk about today, because of this presentation and really because of where we are as a district, this board has been incredibly thoughtful about wanting to move this district really to modernity, as it were. And what I hope the folks that are listening at home and what everybody is realizing is these kinds of projects, upgrading lights, upgrading boilers, passing bonds, and having the conversation with the community around what they want. And I appreciate that there's a lot of folks in this community that are still waiting to see, but I hope that folks see that in these last 16 months, just the incredible changes that are happening, putting students first, putting teachers first and our staff, and that it's really thanks to this board for being able to allow these kinds of conversations and discussions. I think for years there's been a little bit of a deficit thinking about, oh, we can't, or we have to be protective. And now look at what we're doing. What you saw, the red should scare you, the alarms and the whatever. But again, through the thoughtfulness of this board and the hard work of the executive team and our partners, we're really getting to a point where you're going to see big changes. There has been things that are done that most people don't see. Work on a roof, work in a basement. But over these next couple of years, you're really going to see the kind of thoughtfulness that's happening. And so I just want to take a chance to just say to the community that, like, we are really moving forward. And even today's presentation about the grants, you were introduced to 2 new members of the central office that are part of an entire new department called the Department of Instruction. That's what we need to be doing in this district, is making sure that everybody that is part of this community in the school district is going into schools, focusing on instruction, but also realizing it's pretty hard to teach if the ceiling's dripping on you, or if the lights are flickering, or the boilers don't work. And so going hand in hand, really being creative about doing something like an energy bond, right? That is something that a district could do. We haven't really done it, but let's use all of the tools in our toolbox so that we can put kids and this community first. And so the presentation that you just heard, I hope people are recognizing that we're bringing in best in breed experts who have been fully vetted, who are here to support us to do some incredible work. And, this board, I mean, it's true they're my bosses, but it is what it is. It really should be commended for this, because when you look at all of these things that are happening, universal pre-K, creating departments of instruction, going out into the community, being part of these schools, having new lights, new fixtures, all of this stuff is this idea of how can we get things better. And same thing with the gas cards and CATA cards and all of these new things that are happening. And I appreciate some folks are still seeing me as that outside New Yorker who's coming with his crazy ideas. But I hope that we're all really recognizing that these are collective decisions that are really making a huge impact. And so right now there are 709 kids with CATA passes. That's incredible, because that's 709 kids that are able to go to and from school, but also going to an after school job or going to a practice or being able to go to the mall or going somewhere on the weekend. We have 3,183 gas cards. That means that there are families out there that are getting $50 a month per kid to help support them with gas to take kids to the school, but also it's probably helping the family to get to buy groceries or things like that. So, we're really moving forward. And I think what I'm also hearing from these weekly emails that I send out to the community is starting to get this community to buy in and to be a part of it. Hearing your voices is really powerful. We can only be a great community and a great school district if we get not only the voices, but the support of the community. And I think that this board is doing a really great job in doing that, but we're also making some hard decisions. So I'm thankful that we were able to vote on this, as well as so many of the other things that we're doing. And then the last thing about the presentation is you now see us not just saying we're going to spend money, but we're going to hold ourselves accountable to how we spend that money. And that's really powerful. And if you noticed, it wasn't just the test scores, it was also credit recovery. As probably everybody knows at this table, and probably only half the people in the audience know, is that we have 3 district goals. We have an 85% high school graduation rate, a 90% attendance rate, and 11,500 students enrollment. One of the greatest things that hold kids back from graduating, of course, is credits. And so for years, this district we knew it, and our teachers are working hard and we're trying to make things happen, but we have to be thoughtful about how do we get kids who maybe hadn't succeeded in their 9th grade year, in their 10th grade year, in their 11th grade year, to get that credit that they need to graduate. And so being creative with the things we have, having kids choose to go to Ebersol for a weekend where they can do an intense class on math and get half of credit and actually really feel that they're learning and they're being supported. That's something powerful, and that's going to start to be not only a leading light in Lansing, but it will start to really change the discourse in this country. I know sometimes we don't think of this because we're Lansing, we're here, but some of the work that's being done here is going to be a model for the country. And I think we should all just be really thankful for the staff here and for the community that's really buying into this. So that Ebersol credit accumulation weekend is something that we hope to get off the ground pretty soon. And I really look forward to any of the board, and certainly, the community, you'd have to ask for permission to go on the stuff, but we'd love to see you there too, is to really see the kind of innovative projects that we're starting to do. I appreciate last year was rough, COVID, the whole 9, but it's only October and we're already doing such kind of new and innovative things. Some of it will fail. I'm always going to be honest about that, but I think a lot of these things are going to be pretty great. So with that, I just want to thank everybody. I know we have a Did You Know video, right, John? Which we all love. And what I'll preface this by saying is, because it's the MSU football player one, right? So a great thing about community is when you start opening your doors, people start walking in. And so, we got an email from these wonderful folks at MSU who said, hey, we have like a break. You want help? And we're like, yes, of course we do. And so we were able to have this really wonderful partnership with MSU Athletics. And you'll see in the video how much fun it was.
To share with the kids why it's important to do your best now and how that transfers into becoming a collegiate athlete.
So we have preschool to 7th grade kids. We are a biotech magnet. So they do engineering in elementary, and they do science. We're a STEM focus. And so they get the robotics, coding, and they get to do all those types of things here. So they're not, lab is closed today, but that's what they do in conjunction with their math, science, reading, and writing.
So basically, you have to pass 3 classes like your freshman year, and you have to have at least, I think it's around like a 2.4 GPA to be eligible.
They have lots and lots and lots and lots of practice, like lots. In addition to like actually being in practice, they also have conditioning and weightlifting and stuff like that, which means that they have to organize their time. And you heard, like, who has a 3.7? My goodness. Those are really, really good grades. Very good grades to keep on top of that. So, as a teacher, I'm super impressed.
Is it from when you get piled on?
Sometimes they do when you at the bottom of the pile. Sometimes, yeah. Yeah, it do hurt. Y'all the big kid. Y'all the leaders of the school?
No,
You ain't never too young to start leading, man. Y'all next to the older stuff, so y'all can lead too. You said what happened to the game yesterday? We won.
No.
He must have been watching the road team.
Thank you, John. And that's just one of the many relationships that we're starting.
I'd love for you to share with the kids why it's
just one of the many relationships that we're starting to create and opening our doors. And I also want to thank the MSU team for helping us clean out Don Johnson. I could not have hired a better moving crew than the football team at MSU. And just, we're really thankful for how the community is supporting us, and certainly anybody listening, our doors are open, and we really thank your support. Acting President Willis, I turn it back over to you, and thank you for the time.
Thank you. Appreciate the report this evening. Next, we're on to our routine matters and committee reports. And so first up, we have Dr. Rodriguez with the Policy Committee update.
Thank you, Madam President. It's so nice to see our players and the way they play Saturday. And I hope then 1 week from Saturday, we do the same. You have in front of you, board members, the minutes of the policy committee that we had yesterday from 12 to 1:30. And the first thing I want you to know that we had the compliance officer is Erin Miracle, and the Title IX coordinator is Darren Water. Is the way the policies are asking for different people responsible for these 2 responsibilities, redundance. I am glad the superintendent was present, and he guided us with what the future we are going to be studying regarding health education and sex education and all related to health that because different situations we had the last 2 or 3 years, we didn't follow very well the policies. Then we are going to create new ones and then reinvent this for the Lansing School District. It's going to be a great plan. And they presented to us the one day Lansing is having, and I think that is a good model, and maybe we are going to follow some of their ideas. Also, Mr. Stevens came and presented to us the electronic devices during the testing and how we can deal with that, because there are some regulations. Then we also talk about alternative education that we already know about that, what is going on in the district. For the next meeting on November 3rd, we will have 5 new policies for adoption. That will be the first reading. Okay, that you will have that by November 3rd for the first reading. You can approve that at that time, or you can wait for 1 week. But I think the people want more and more study of the policies, and let's see what happens next year with the new officers or whatever you decide to do. We also study what many times we are going to meet during the year, and I think the idea is to meet more frequently to see if we can have better knowledge of what the policies tell us, and also work with the administration and how to do regulations. 128th, we finished the meeting, and I want to thank Deputy Superintendent, Mr. Keck, and Sheriff Curry for doing all at work and supporting the members of the policy committee. I think that we need not only the board member, but also support system for every committee that we have with the board members. We cannot have board members taking notes, taking the minutes and all that. I think that we are there to produce and to think together and have other people doing the rest. That is my report. If any questions, I will be more than happy to answer.
Any questions for Dr. Rodriguez? Thank you, Dr. Rodriguez, and thank you for sharing the minutes with all of us. I appreciate it. Next, I'm going to turn over to Dr. Kavanaugh, who is filling in for Ms. Moore to give us our treasurer's report.
Thank you. Yes, 2 updates. First is that the Finance Committee met this week. We reviewed the grants presentation that we all saw as a group tonight, and we also received a presentation from PFM, which is an asset management LLC, and that was about investment strategies given current market conditions. Additionally, the detailed treasurer's report for the period of September 1st, 2022 through September 30th, 2022 is attached to this evening's agenda. Following are the highlights of that report. The beginning cash and investment balance was $53,997,541. Receipts totaled $31,576,138, while disbursements equaled $21,043,713. Net interfund transfers totaled $10,848,051 in interest from fund investments to the student and bond funds, as well as journal entries to remove the due to, due froms in all funds. The monthly transfer to the general funds for 2022-2019 bond expenses was $0. The ending general fund cash and investments balance on September 30th, 2022 was $52,781,914. The general fund's cash and investment balance is $26,233,821 greater as compared to the same time last year. Finally, we received 4 donations during the month of September 2022, totaling $23,000. Try to trip me up there. $23,205.24. These donations include $22,000 from the Lansing Promise, $1,171 from Capital Area United Way for RAF donation, an additional $31.67 from Capital Area United Way for Ebersol, and $2.52 from the Carl McLean Memorial Fund. Madam President, this concludes the September 2022 Treasurer's Report.
Thank you. Any questions for Dr. Kavanaugh? All right, great. For Equity Committee update, I just wanted to provide the board with an update that Dr. Sarah O'Neill and I met with John and his team to record a video to encourage people to apply for the board's Equity Committee that we stood up. And as soon as Dr. O'Neill gets some final documentation to Mr. McGraw, that application will go live. We will push it through to all mailboxes, publish it on our website, push it on social media with an application deadline of October 31st. After that point, Dr. O'Neill and I will review all the applications, make sure that we have our representations as described by the charter, and then we will move forward from there. So just want to let you guys know we're looking forward to moving forward with that and see if there's any questions. All right, seeing none, I'm going to move on to our consent agenda. Dr. Rodriguez.
I move that the Board of Education approve the consent agenda as presented. Support.
Thank you. It's been moved by Dr. Rodriguez and supported by Ms. Hodgen. Any questions? Just for the record, the consent agenda includes the approval of the 9:15 ISS meeting minutes, the 10:06 regular meeting minutes, the 10:13 ISS meeting minutes, receipt and approval of the treasurer's report, and approval of the bid recommendation included in our packet, which is an AC equipment package for the schools, Averill, Lyons, and Rio. All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, that motion passes 5-0. We have already completed our action item for the evening. Thank you, board. On to new business and discussion, of which we have none. So we have public comment on non-agenda items, of which we have none, which brings us to our report from Secretary and Announcement. Dr. Rodriguez.
Thank you, Madam President. On Wednesday, October 26, 2022, Pickup Parents Community Advisory Council meeting will be in the cafeteria at Sexton High School, time 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. See Lansing School District calendar for details. October 28, 2022, the end of the first marking period. The school year is divided in 4 marking periods, 2 in the first semester, 2 in the second semester. The first marking period, the parents and the students can see how they are doing and take the necessary step to do better. Thursday, November 3rd, regular board meeting at 6 p.m. in Georgia Brown Ballroom right here. And Tuesday, November 8th, 2022, Election Day, no school. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you. Any questions for Dr. Rodriguez? Thank you. Any comments from board members before we adjourn? All right, seeing none, it's at 7:14, we are adjourned.